Steven, what's the next QB talk show host rivalry you want to see?
Quarterback talk show host. Ooh, good one.
Late night talk show host versus a quarterback. I'm thinking Tom Brady versus Conan. Huh?
Mm,
Like that
I
one?
I like that one because you got two tall, very lanky guys.
Both
Kind of
from one famously from Boston, one we did work in Boston, one from Boston.
right.
You could have
Mm.
Baker Mayfield versus Jimmy Fallon. I feel like you would call him out for being a phony. I don't know why that comes to mind, but that's just one that clicked.
Ooh. Well, Baker Mayfield and Colin Cowherd's number one. Like no talk show host can
Oh
replace
yeah,
that.
that's already been a thing. Well, we can't forget Jim Everett versus Jim Rome. Check that,
Correct.
Chris Everett.
Check that. I was thinking Conan. Why was Conan the first thing to pop into both of our heads?
Because I love Conan. Conan is my
Because
all-time favorite.
I had Conan. I had Conan against Andy Dalton.
For redhead supremacy?
Yes, exactly. Just the aesthetic of it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, the reason we bring it up, and just your opinion, man, Stephen Langford, Derek Papa, we'll get to a lot tonight, is because Jimmy Kimmel and Aaron Rodgers are getting into it. So we'll talk about the Niners wrapping up the 1 seed. We'll talk about the Raiders finishing out their season. We'll talk about even the CFP, Jim Harbaugh's future. But before we get to all that stuff, you wanted to bring this up. This is a topic that I'm not wanting to get into because I just hate nastiness these days.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid all controversial shit. But this kind of seeps into the sports world, so we'll touch on it, give our opinion, man. Aaron Rodgers went on with Pat McAfee, and I will admit that I don't listen to Aaron Rodgers go on Pat McAfee anymore because I've heard it all before.
Good.
The only thing I care about with Pat McAfee and Aaron Rodgers is when he just said that he was going to the Jets. And I listened to when he was talking about going to New York. And then I listened, obviously, to the big one a couple years ago, the highly controversial one where he was talking about why he's not vaccinated. Besides all that, I don't care to listen to Aaron Rodgers go on diatribes while he's resting his Achilles. But when you bring up Epstein and that whole list, I got to be honest. I don't even know all the details of that. I don't like to get into weird, frankly, stupid theories, so I don't touch on that stuff. But when you bring up people with reputations that are on television, namely Jimmy Kimmel, saying that he's associated with that, I 100% understand why Jimmy Kimmel would react that way. So,
Yep.
Stephen, you know more of the details than I do. Please give us your opinion, man.
Well, Jeffrey Epstein, like if you don't know any of that, I don't exactly know what he did. I'm still confused by what he used to do, but
You mean like as a
businessman.
profession? Yeah.
Businessman, investor, whatever. So this client list is coming out, and obviously Jeffrey Epstein, known for sex trafficking, along with Ghislaine Maxwell. And the reason that these court documents are being revealed is because Ghislaine Maxwell is in court. Obviously, Jeffrey Epstein is dead. But with all this going on, that list being revealed, just with all the things that Aaron Rodgers has said on Pat McAfee, I'm fine with. Like, honestly, the vaccination stuff, like with all that's come out a few years later, I'm actually willing to hear about the science behind that because there's been different studies about the vaccine and all that sort of. So I'm willing to hear that. And go on and say whatever conspiracy theories about UFOs that you want. But when it's something as serious as like legitimately accusing a really prominent personality in pop culture as being on that island or being a part of that client list, like that's just that crosses a line that I can't even begin to like describe how big that is, like how much of a line that he actually crossed. And I think what I was more sickened by, though, were the reactions to Jimmy Kimmel's response. I already broke my New Year's resolution. I already did. I looked at replies.
That was fast.
I looked at replies. Yeah, it was over, man. It was over. But the replies were, number one, to Jimmy Kimmel is his what he said, him divulging everything. Some people claim that was an admission of guilt. Ooh, you know what I mean? And it involves his family. Like it's a big deal. It's not just like Pat McAfee said today, oh, they were just talking shit. It's no, it's more than that. Like that's a like basically an accusation. And then the response is, well, Aaron Rodgers didn't say that. Yes, he did. That's exactly what he said. Well, it's a free speech. It's a free country. Guess what? He's getting paid $1 million per appearance. So technically, it's not free speech. He's getting paid to talk like that. So don't come around telling me that's free speech when you're paid to do it. That's not free. The definition of free is free. That's not free. He's making $1 million per week.
Just to give the actual quote, Jimmy Kimmel responded to Aaron Rodgers saying, "Dear asshole, for the record, I have not met, flown with, visited, or had any contact whatsoever with Epstein, nor will you find my name on any list other than the clearly phony nonsense that soft-brained wackos like yourself can't seem to distinguish from reality. Your reckless words put my family in danger. Keep it up and we'll debate the facts further in court." That is 100% fair. I agree with Jimmy Kimmel reacting that way. When you put someone's name out there with something as serious as this is like Epstein's accused of child molestation, correct?
Yes. Sex
Yeah,
trafficking. Yeah.
yeah, it's like yeah, sex trafficking. Yeah, that's a serious accusation.
Mm-hmm.
So I do not blame Jimmy Kimmel responding that way whatsoever. But what you and me were discussing earlier today, we were texting, was is it incumbent on Pat McAfee today to call out Aaron Rodgers for what he said? And I just think we put a lot of stock into Pat McAfee as an on-air personality now because his show's on ESPN. The reality is he has a YouTube show that is put on ESPN, and I find myself torn with that. Like, good for him for coming up in the industry and finding a huge platform. But also, I don't put any stock into what he says, really. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I got to be honest, I don't listen to a lot of people's analysis of football during the actual season. I listen to more of this, I'll say, all the bullshit in the off season because I want to hear the news. Yeah, but as far as people like breaking down football, like not to be arrogant or anything, but like I know what to look for now. Like I don't need anybody's opinion. So when it comes to
Oh, that
sorry.
no, that's arrogant. That's pretty arrogant.
No, but I mean, like like I'll listen here
These
and
people who
every
cover
now.
the sport can't teach me anything. What do they
No, but
know?
no, like no, but no, no, but like, to be honest though, like I like to listen to like I'll hear people from time to time, people that come on Tolbert and Copes like to hear their opinions, but I'm not seeking anything. Like I watch football, I know what's good and what's
Mhm.
bad, so
Right.
I'm not trying to be too arrogant here, but maybe I am. The reality
Oh,
is
no,
though,
you are.
when it comes to opinions about the sport, I don't care to hear Pat McAfee's opinion. Now, I think he's
Right.
very good on College Game Day. He's actually more professional and buttoned up, but he's doing, a fun show during the weekday. So to take him as like a journalist or whatnot, I don't see it that way. And if we were expecting him to do something today, I knew back 2 years ago he wasn't going to do anything because Aaron Rodgers was going on his diatribe about the vaccines and wasn't going to say anything then. So
Right.
also, Pat McAfee knows what pays the bills. He knows that his show is highly popular because Aaron Rodgers comes on every week. So I'm not putting this on Pat McAfee. I think it's fair for him to say that Jimmy Kimmel has the right to say what he wants to say. I disagree
Mhm.
with him that it was more than just bullshitting. I think Aaron Rodgers, you know, it was kind of bullshitting, but also like when that show is shown on as many platforms that it is, then yeah, you're gonna have some blowback. So I totally understand that, and also there is significant interest from both sides because
Mhm.
the show is on ESPN. It's a Disney company, and Jimmy Kimmel works on ABC, which is a Disney company. So I'm sure Aaron Rodgers is going to have to apologize at some point. But I don't think Pat McAfee's kicking Aaron Rodgers off of off his show. I don't think that's happening.
I think just what it really, well, ESPN very well could, because this could result in a lawsuit, and they could go through a whole thing with this. Like this could cost them a lot of money down the line.
They
But
could, but did they not know what they're getting into when they put this show live on their station?
I don't think they expected that one of their Disney-based employees was gonna get slandered for being on a sex trafficker's client list. No, I do not think they thought that far. They were getting the
All
UFOs,
right.
they were getting the vaccine stuff, and I think from my perspective, like, I don't think Pat McAfee should have approached it as a journalist. Like, sports journalism on ESPN has been long gone. Like, Stephen A. used to be a journalist, and now he's just, you know, an entertainer at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of a hot take artist, right? He knows his stuff. He knows people. I don't doubt that. But it's all a presentation. And it's the same thing with Pat McAfee. I just think that the way Pat McAfee should have approached it is the way that you and I kind of talk, which is um we call each other out, I'd like to say. At
Yeah.
least if we're kind
Well, you
of
just did. You just did with me.
right. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
reason Aaron Rodgers is going on is because I think he looks at Pat McAfee as a friend. He doesn't look at any journalists as friends because friends are going to call him out. Or
Yeah.
excuse me, journalists are going to call him out and kind of ask a follow-up. But I did think that Pat McAfee had it just as a decent human being to be like, okay, Aaron, that's a little, you know what I mean? It's a little too much. Like, I don't know what he should have said. I'm not going to act like I know the answer to that. And in real time, I mean, it's hard for him to know what he was going to say because it did AJ Hawk did set it up. He was the one that set up the whole thing. Um, but I just think Pat McAfee should have been like, all right, Eric, come on. Like, seriously, you're going to bring that up. We get you to come on this show every week. You don't need to be bringing up a name like that. I don't know. Maybe that shouldn't have happened. Maybe it was just too much in the moment. And they did move on. They didn't like harp on that. They didn't talk about Kimmel and ask any follow ups, but it was just so irresponsible. And I think it just reminded me, and the reason that I was so angered by it, it just reminded me of the place we're in society right now, where it's just there's just such a lack of human decency. And if you feel like you are a decent human, then you're going to get called out for being part of the woke mob. And it's such a mess, dude. It really is. And people looking at it as a joke, it's not a joke. I don't think it's a joke. I don't look at it that way. And if people want to, that's fine. And then they're bringing up all of Jimmy Kimmel's past and everything. And
Well,
no doubt,
that's not fair.
no doubt, Kimmel has,
That's
yeah, he has a skeletons, but come on, it's a totally different animal.
yeah. But you know what? I push back on that because there's a time and place for everything. Back in the 90s, Jimmy Kimmel was on The Man Show. And yeah, they got away with a lot of shit. A lot of people did. It was a different time and place.
Mhm.
Things change over time, and we can't change the past. You can't kill people for what they did in the past, too. Like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, obviously crimes, yes. But, like, things change. Things
Right.
change. And yes, we all know Jimmy Kimmel put on blackface and did the Carlo Malone stuff. And The Man Show probably would not be on television today. But he recognizes that. People grow. It like I don't think those should be lumped in together. Like it
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um but
And
I hear
the hypocrisy too. In the end, Jimmy Kimmel's a comedian. Um, that's
yes.
what he is. And it's the same people who are saying that we're too offended by what comedians say or that others are. We're not, because I think you and I actually understand stand-up comedy,
Yeah.
as opposed to other people who take it very, very seriously. But they're the same people who are calling out those for being soft. But Jimmy Kimmel's a comedian, and he made one little joke about Aaron Rodgers believing in UFOs and going on national TV and spewing stuff about it. Like,
Yeah.
it's a funny joke, and they take that seriously just because it's a single person messenger whole thing. It just there's a lot, dude. There's a lot that you can throw into this boiling pot of crap that we have to deal with. It's just something to wait. It's just new year, nothing's changed. I look up what's trending on Twitter this morning. Number one is Jimmy Kimmel, obviously. Number two, Jamel Hill. People arguing about affirmative action after what happened with the I believe it's the dean of Harvard. I don't know, but it's just gotten to this whole thing, and it's just, yep, nothing's changed. So it kind of bothered me this morning when I woke up to all of that.
Well, I mean, it bothered Dalvin Cook to the point where he didn't like Aaron Rodgers' comments so badly that he wanted to be cut from the Jets.
Right?
That actually did not
Right?
happen. That actually
Oh
did
yeah.
not happen.
Oh,
See,
okay.
I can clarify when things are not true on this podcast, which
Mhm.
I will say. Do you think, like, let's say that Shane Gillis, who you and I both like, was bullshitting about this on his podcast? Do you think that that would be inclined for someone like Jimmy Kimmel to respond to something like that?
because I think people would know he's joking.
Okay, all right.
Rogers like did not know that he was joking, like, or he was not joking. It was pretty clear he was not joking. He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I can't wait." If he was, then it's the worst joke I've ever heard in my life.
No, I mean,
Like,
that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Aaron Rodgers should have said that. I don't think he should say a lot of things. I actually don't want to pay attention. I'll be completely honest. I do like to separate the athlete from their personal life. Like it's hard for me sometimes to enjoy watching Tyreek Hill because I know what he's done in the past. But as I've worked in this industry, I think you just got to separate the two. That's why, like, I don't get caught up in some of these stories. Like everybody's like, "Oh, Tommy DeVito, a great story." I don't care. I really just focus on the playing, and that's what I like to do. But when people say fucked up shit, then you gotta talk about it on sports talk radio, and you gotta, you know, look into it more deeper. So I totally understand Jimmy Kimmel's response. Um, and I do think that Aaron Rodgers should apologize. I don't think Pat McAfee's going to do anything. If anything, Pat could have pushed back. Like he's fine. He's friends with Travis Kelsey too. He could have pushed back all the times that he called him Pfizer boy. And I think he's kind of joking around with that. But I found that to be kind of a dick move too. So I also think this is the risk you run with ESPN trying to be edgy now and put this highly popular YouTube show on ESPN that you're going to run into some highly controversial stuff sometimes. And it sucks, and it's a conflict of interest when you have a big Disney uh employee being called out. But that's what happens, I think, when you have Pat McAfee, whose show has f-bombs and all that shit, go on your network.
it's great. It's great that he's doing it, but um, it's just if the dude's getting paid $1 million, it becomes way more than free speech.
Yeah, I
Becomes
don't know
way
if he's
more
getting
than
paid a
free.
million dollars.
Well, that's what's reported.
Yeah, but $1 million a hit.
Yeah,
I I don't know if Pat McAfee has that money.
I think ESPN has that money, and they're willing to do whatever to acquiesce to whatever Pat McAfee wants because they know he's kind of the new face of their network.
That's a lot. I mean, listen, I don't doubt that Aaron Rodgers is getting paid money, but I know what goes into weekly hits for radio stations and TV hits. I would be surprised if he's actually getting paid $1 million each week.
Yeah, I wouldn't be.
All right.
I wouldn't be.
Okay. Fair enough.
My brother just texted me. Didn't Derek say he was going to try and stop swearing?
Yeah, just like everything else, I can't change in 2024.
Well, just the way that ESPN knows what they're getting into with Aaron Rodgers, my brother should know what we're getting into on this podcast, and he puts it up on his big screen, even though he has a 6 and a 3-year-old. This isn't exactly a family-friendly pod.
Exactly.
I
I'm gonna
love you,
try my
Geneva and Anthony, but
I'm gonna try my best, Ian, for the rest of the podcast. I will try my best, and the Ernies will probably keep track of how much more
no,
I curse on
no,
this.
don't let him sway you. Be you.
All right,
Be
fuck it then.
you.
Let's do it. Real quick, just to change the topic because this topic makes me. Ugh.
Yeah.
Warriors last
Oh, yeah.
night get the
Nice
win.
transition.
Get the win against the Magic, and the Magic are playing better this season. I think they're fifth in the Eastern Conference. Not bad,
Correct.
but you never want to lose at home to the Magic. Sorry, that's just not something the Warriors should do these days. But they got the win. The bigger thing to come out of the game is Klay Thompson's comments.
Yep.
Tom Tolbert actually before the game said on the show that Klay Thompson's very hard on himself. In fact, maybe too hard on himself. And that's funny because then Klay was open about his struggles lately. And it's been well documented. Like he's got he's dealing with a lot, from the injuries to his play diminishing, from calling out Devin Booker, doing the four rings thing. He's just having a hard time right now, and I think it's hard for any player when they realize that they're not going to be the same player again. So Klay Thompson, after the game last night, spoke to the media and said that he had a great conversation with Steve Kerr, and basically he should enjoy the now. He
Want me to
shouldn't
play
focus.
it?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't know we had the clip.
Oh,
Let's
come
hear
on,
it.
Derek. Come on, dude. You know what this is.
Steve was saying before the game that you're a perfectionist, and that sometimes you get down on yourself when you're not as good as you want to be. How do you find that balance between understanding that perfection is not really reasonable, and at the same time staying positive about what you can do even when things are going bad?
Well, Steve and I had actually a great conversation yesterday, and that helped me relax a lot. Sometimes I forget just how successful and how lucky I've been to be a part of championship teams and all-star games and gold medals. And when you want to get back to that level so badly, you could kind of get in your own way. And rather than forcing it, we had a conversation about just enjoying this last chapter of my career and how lucky I truly am to still be playing this game and do it at a high level and being a better mentor for these young guys, leading by example and having my energy right every game. And he helped me realize I do have negative energy, how that affects the team in a poor manner. So we had a great conversation that just helped me change my whole mindset and forget about shooting splits or points per game or all-star games, and just to enjoy being in this Warriors uniform and appreciate what we built, because it's such a rare opportunity for any professional athlete to be a part of so much success, and to try and pass that torch to the younger guys and keep this thing going.
Hmm.
Steven, your thoughts?
Well, this is probably the third time we've heard him reflect on his career, but third time's a charm, as they say. And what I gathered from that is, especially after last night, finally the Warriors get a great team win. Chris Paul was awesome. Jonathan Kuminga was awesome. Trace Jackson Davis was fantastic on the defensive end. The only player that I can think of that really didn't play well was Dario Saric. Dario Saric was really frustrating on the court, and then his plus-minus number spoke to it. I think he was like a minus 10 or something on the floor. And then Steph Curry, obviously. Steph Curry just went nuclear, and he had that look in game 4. Remember that game 4 against Boston game after everything with Draymond and in the Garden, and it felt like it was personal. Yeah, it felt like this one was personal for Steph. But for Clay, he was probably he was the third leading scorer, but Chris Paul was great too. Like, what do you think? He was probably like the fourth most important player on the court at the time, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he's used to being the second best player on the court. Hell, even the first. Sometimes it would switch between, him and Steph. But it really feels like he's kind of realized and learned after that conversation. Number one, he just needs to be that Andre Iguodala type from now on. Like, the stats don't matter. He was making the extra pass last night. It was evident. He was getting it to Kuminga. Kuminga swinging it around, finding the good shot for a great shot, whatever. But it also kind of revealed to me that it seems like he knows this is the end for his time with the Warriors, unless he really wants to make like a minimum amount on his, not a veteran minimum, but if he really wants to make a much smaller amount than he was expecting next year, then he might sign with the Warriors. But it feels like he kind of knows, unless he really picks it up, like this could be his last season with the Warriors. And that might have been a foregone conclusion even before the season started. But we already know that they rejected the contract that he's trying to get, and they don't want to roll with it. So it just felt like he kind of knows that this might be the last year for him with the Warriors. And so he's going to try and enjoy it, this last chapter, the last stage of his career, as he mentioned. And I think it's hard to accept. I mean, I can't speak to him accepting that. It's got to be really hard to accept that.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think that he did mention it earlier this year. I think Roz Goldon Woody asked him, do you realize this could be the end? He goes, yeah, of course I do. Of course I do. And I'm going to appreciate it. But I don't think he really has. I think it's more so that he's so frustrated with his play that he thought he would play more free and carefree, and he would just be playing better, and then he would be rewarded with a contract. But it's not happening that way. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I think that Klay Thompson is kind of having the mindset that I think all of us should have when it comes to the Warriors. And I've been saying this for a while now. I don't know what's going to happen after this year. I don't know if Steve Kerr's coming back. I don't know if Klay Thompson's coming back. But what I do know is that this team has accomplished a whole hell of a lot in the last however many years, 9 years, whatever it's been. And they've won 4 championships, something that I never thought I would see them do. And I think it's harder for the younger fans to accept, oh, this team is, what's happening? This is the, come on, this is one of the best teams in the NBA. How come they're not getting their shit right? Things come and go. Things die down. It happens. Giants fans know. I mean, it's tough to rebuild something after you won for so long. And I think Joe Lacob has been guilty of keeping guys for too long, and now it's kind of blowing up. And I think we should all be grateful for what we saw in 2022. And now it's slowly deteriorating a little bit. So I think that Klay Thompson saying this has really grown up with him, and I hope he comes back. At this point, yes, it should be for less money, but if you're willing to stick around and be a part of the organization that you were drafted by, then maybe he will want to finish his career here. I don't know, but I think all of us should feel the same way that Klay Thompson feels now, where let's just enjoy this. Let's just see what happens. I know every year you want to win, and that's competitive edge and whatnot. But the truth is, I don't see this team being a championship team. And I don't think they could do really anything significant at the trade deadline at this point. I don't know what fits. You're really going to get Zach LaVine with Steph Curry, and I think you have to trade Klay too, probably. So I don't think there's any trade they can do to really help them at this point. I think it is what it is, and I think Steve's going to reassess things. I think that Klay will reassess things. Steph's going to be around. I don't even know about Draymond. We'll see when he comes back from the suspension. I thought that it's a done deal. The contract means he's going to stick around, but I don't know anymore. But the way that they've been talking, and that he's not around, and they don't know when he's coming back, and I don't know if him going to LeBron's birthday party while he's suspended pissed them off. I don't know any of that. But what I do know is that this team has won a lot, and we all should appreciate it.
Yeah. I think it would be a lot easier to accept if Steph wasn't performing at the level that he was. Like last night, I mean, this dude there's no such thing as turning back the clock with him. This guy's just on a nightly basis. He could score 36 and put that up on you. Like he's making the Magic up and coming team. He's making these younger guys look foolish. I mean, look at that shot towards the end of the first half against Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs, although he's kind of been a little bit of, I don't want to say he's definitely not a bust. I guess you could say he's been a little bit of a disappointment since he came from Gonzaga, and maybe we put too much stock into his draft status because of that game-winning shot he hit over UCLA in the tournament. But like he hit that shot over a young up-and-coming player, good defender, and he shook him. Like it's like if he wasn't playing at this level, if he was playing, say, like Michael Jordan was at 36 or 35, rather, he's turning 36 in March. But if he's playing at a Michael Jordan level at 36, where it's just he's a bench player with the Wizards, I think it would be a little easier to accept. Like, oh, okay, this really is the end. But the fact that Steph is performing at such a high level, I think that there's always that chance when you have a Steph that you can win. And that's what makes it hard to try to think about, really. Just to try to grasp is that this is not a championship team when Steph's playing that way, but maybe it's not. And I don't necessarily agree that a trade can't help them. I don't know if Zach LaVine's going to be the answer, but I mean, if you pull off a trade to get, I don't know, a Pascal Siakam, I like that trade. Although that trade's been in the works for like 3 or 4 years. That's probably not going to materialize, but
are they a championship team with Pascal Siakam?
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I don't know, but they'd be better than they are right now. Better than an 11th seed in the Western Conference.
No doubt, but I think also, I think they're going to have a hard conversation this offseason. Whatever happens, I think they're playing it out. I wouldn't be surprised also if Joe Lacob demands a trade from Mike Dunleavy. He's that demanding of an owner. But I would also say that maybe Mike Dunleavy tells Joe Lacob and Steve Kerr, and this is the part that they're both going to have to deal with, is we are rebuilding with Steph. We're letting Klay go, we're trading Draymond, and we're playing with the young guys. And that's what we're going to do going forward with this team. Moses Moody is going to be starting. Jonathan Kuminga is going to be starting. Pods is going to be starting. And this is our team. And this is how we're going to roll going forward to get younger. And that's going to have a lot of, it's going to be a lot of growing pains. And I don't think, if people are upset with things now,
yeah,
just wait when Steph is frustrated when the young guys don't know what to do in the way that he wants to play basketball. So I think that's the bigger thing that I don't know this for sure, But I think that's the reason why Steve Kerr has not signed his contract. I think that he looks at the future and he goes, I don't know if this is what I want to do with what this team has done in the past, if I want to be part of a huge rebuild. And I think that may be in the works.
Does any coach really want to take that on? Like it's a hard gig, man. I mean, Steve Kerr, I think Steve Kerr knows that he got it pretty damn good. You know,
Yeah.
he inherited a team from Mark Jackson that was pretty well established. He just needed to put a couple of pieces in, include Kevin Durant, and install the mindset of being a top 5 defense and turning them into that, combined with Andre Iguodala. I mean, he had a damn good team when he got here. And then I don't know if he wants to even try to rebuild the team. I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he wants to be in a situation where he wants to try and rebuild it and they're just trying to negotiate his contract. But there is something fishy about him not signing it quite yet. And I think you look at, I'm not saying they'd become the Detroit Pistons, but look at a guy like Monty Williams, just signed an $85 million a year, $85 million contract or whatever it was, 78, I think. But for 6 years, and you want to do that, like potentially be a part of a team that it's also out of your control with how they build it. It's not your decision on how they build the roster. So I don't think Monty Williams was expecting that his roster would be built that way. So I don't know if Steve Kerr would want that either. It's sad, but it's also, that's not the way you want to approach a season if you're a fan watching it. You don't want to think about the big picture thing and think about reality. You want to think about hope. You want hope through a season, game by game. That's why that's why we analyze it so much instead of just like, that's why I'm miserable watching as a Raider fan. Like,
I disagree.
Have you seen the trend lately that's going on with football fans, by the way?
What do you mean?
With significant others and their football fans, husbands or boyfriends or whatever. So they're creating like their own bingo card.
Okay.
Right. So they put like, hands in face or gets up and goes to the hallway pissed off, something like that. They create their own little bingo card and they play the game as they're watching it. And so they get a bingo, then they, drink or something. I don't know what they do. But I was like, eventually you're going to start doing that. And she's like, yeah, if you actually showed any emotion at all watching Raider games. I'm just stoic watching these things because I know the big picture is it doesn't matter because this team's not going to be built for any sort of playoff run for at least another 2 years. So it's kind of depressing to watch. I don't want to feel that way watching the Warriors. Plus, I covered the team, so I don't want to feel that way either, covering the team either.
I know, but I think all of us have to come to terms with reality that this is how it ends.
Why?
Because
it's sports, Derek.
Yeah, I know, but like, I don't know. I think we all just have high expectations because of what they did in the past, and the reality is time changes things. So, I'm always realistic with sports. Like I don't know, that's just me. But like I understand fans are fanatical and they expect the Warriors to win every season. But I don't think that's happening this year, and I had my doubts before the season started too, even. So I think we all just got to be real, and we all got to accept what happened in the past and enjoy it.
So let's just say hypothetically they go on a 8-game win streak. Then you're just going to be sitting there like,
No, I'm not going to go. It'll be exciting, but I got to be honest. I don't like this team come playoff time against the likes of the Nuggets, or even the T-Wolves, or even the Suns. I think we're past those days. I think we're even past the days of this is a guaranteed win against the Magic. I don't even know if they're going to win that game last night.
Well, that's because the Magic are a good team, though.
Yeah, but like nothing's a gimme anymore.
The Raptors are going to be a gimme coming up. The Pistons better be a gimme. Yeah, those 2 games after the Nuggets.
It should be, but they're part of the normal NBA now. They're not some juggernauts. And that's what everybody needs to come to terms with.
You're depressing, man.
No, I'm not depressing. I'm just real.
I hate your opinion, man.
All right, let's move on to some football. And by the way, I did lose in picks. Steven was leading, and I was like, ooh, I could catch you with the CFP picks if you want to count those. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And he got both right, and I got both wrong. I know.
This is proof that knowledge doesn't matter in sport. Sometimes you just got to go against the gut of whoever you're talking to.
Yeah, I think it's the opposite of KRS-One. So it would be NKRS-One. No knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone. Huh?
I wish I understood that.
People know what I'm talking about.
I know. I'm sure people do. KRS-One has never really been in my. I don't want to say catalog. That sounds snobby, but never really listened to KRS-One like fully. I should though.
Oh
I
yeah,
should
man.
do
Boogie
that.
Down Productions.
Yeah, I should do that.
Boop, boop. That's the sound of the police.
Well, I know that one. I know
Okay.
that one. Officer, 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 officer.
Anyway, so CFP real quick before we get to Raiders and Niners.
Officer, 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 officer.
Highly entertaining games. You watch both, right, Steven?
Correct.
Okay. Because they kind of feel like mini NFL playoff games. So I think even the non-football, college football watching audience watches those games.
Yeah.
Because you're going to see a lot of draft prospects. The Alabama-Michigan game, that was a lot of fun. I'm not after watching it, I'm not a big fan of JJ McCarthy. I think that he's just not a great quarterback. I don't know what the hell. I know Harbaugh's hyping up his guy, but to say afterwards like, "Oh, he's the greatest quarterback in Michigan history," I'm like, no chance. But it was a fun game. Not a lot of offense. That's why I wonder what the matchup between Michigan and Washington, what that's going to be like, because Washington's offense, that's something right there. We'll get to that in a little bit here, but
Yeah.
the play call at the end with Jalen Milroe, the irony, the goddamn irony of last week when Jalen Milroe was saying like, yeah, even my offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien doesn't think I'm, should have been that quarterback, and his current offensive coordinator doesn't think that either because he had a goddamn QB run. Like, at least give your quarterback a chance to throw the ball to win the game. I know that play worked a couple times, but I don't know. Like, give him the chance to run if there's nothing there in the end zone to throw. I think you should always give your quarterback with the game on the line a chance to throw the football. If there's nothing there, then use your legs. But besides all that, good for Harbaugh.
Yeah.
This means something for his future, obviously. But what'd you think of the game, Steven?
Well, see, this is where your arrogance comes into play because Nick Saban, doesn't matter what anyone thinks, he is one of, if not the most successful college football coach in history.
Yes.
And he said they found the look that they wanted and it just didn't work. Wasn't well executed. So I'll take their word for it. Although I do agree with you. I'd much rather see them throw at the end of the game. It's so anticlimactic the way that it ended. Shout out to Michigan's defense, though. I think Blake Corum too. On their offense, I think he's going to be fantastic in the NFL for 3 years. Until he ages like running backs do because he's 23. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a sad life of a running back. But no, I think my biggest takeaway was actually I can't get over it. You see that interview with his parents,
Jack and
Jackie.
Or Jackie.
Yeah.
Yes.
You saw that.
Won.
It's not even that. It's just how much they look like. Like, Derek, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but when we first met, right, I didn't know who you were. Okay. I came back. I was coming back as an intern to 95.7, and I'm like, who's this guy who thinks he's hot stuff just coming in to produce the 10 to 2 show or 10 to 12 show? Like, who's this random guy who's this random balding guy with a Texas backpack? No,
I wasn't balding back then. Yeah.
Just kidding. But I did remember being a little shocked that you were Greg's son or that Greg was your dad. Sorry. I know you don't like Greg was your dad. So I was shocked because you guys didn't look all that alike.
Yeah.
And whether that's a good thing for you, I don't know. That's up to you.
I think it's a great thing for me.
Okay, there you go. I think your dad's a tall drink of water. But anyway, so you guys don't really look too much alike. When it comes to me and my brother, I don't think we look too much like our parents. But when I saw Jack Harbaugh doing the interview, I thought I was looking at Jim Harbaugh, just an old version of Jim Harbaugh, and it creeped me out. Here we go.
Your son talks about the two of you all the time. He's talked about this moment coming for this program for a long time. How do you put into words your emotions right now?
Are you kidding me? They won! What's better than that?
We have a thing in our family that we use for a long time. And it goes like this. Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Oh my goodness.
It's almost like Jack didn't know that people knew that. It's like, hey, I'm gonna let you on a little secret here. This is something we say amongst the family. Like, yeah, we know. Your coaches are, I mean, your sons are big time coaches. We've heard this a million times, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jim did say it on the stage twice. It was pretty funny. Did you hear that at the trophy presentation?
Yeah.
He tried doing that. Didn't really work out the first time, and then the reporter gave him another one. Actually, it's one of my favorite pieces of audio because you could just hear in the background Harbaugh's like, "Who's got it better than us?" You ran out of gas the first one, but I just can't get over that. Just how much he's a spitting image, and they showed that the NFL Films posted the video of the two brothers or whatever, and it wasn't even when Jim was with the 49ers. He was with Stanford at the time, but he didn't look like his dad as much then. Like, he looks way more like his dad now.
Well, yeah,
just the hat, the glasses, all of it. It's just I love to picture the Harbaugh family at Thanksgiving dinner, just talking football, and then out of nowhere, as they're eating turkey, Jack's just at the end of the dinner table like, you know what? Who's got it better than us? As he's eating the turkey? Nobody.
Yeah, we were talking about it on the show. It's almost like was it on in Billy Madison? O'Doyle rules. It's like the whole family just has that that saying that they all just say together. It's almost like in Seinfeld too. You ever seen the episode where Jerry goes back to see his parents at Del Boca Vista, and he goes through 3 generations of that old man, Lloyd Bridges, and every time, like, they're like, you think my dad's old? I'm not old. And it's all 3 of them going, Mandelbaum. It's just like the lineage of family, just their sayings, and they're all like just in together in unison.
Yeah. Although those people on those shows seemed crazy. Jack and Jackie Harbaugh seem like lovely people.
They don't?
They seem like lovely people. I'm sorry.
No, they probably
Come
are.
on,
They
Dad.
probably are.
They seem lovely. And if
His
Jim
mom, by the way,
Harbaugh
that
goes,
just cracked me up. He won.
hey man, he hasn't won the big game yet. It's been 3 straight
Yeah.
years. Damn it,
Yeah.
Jackie's getting tired of this. Jim, hurry up and win.
Bunch of heartache. Seeing TCU kick your ass last year, Jesus, ruined my New Year's Eve. Speaking of Harbaugh, well, I'll get to Harbaugh in a little bit here because that's a bigger topic that leads into the Raiders. The other game, Texas. The reality is Washington just has a better offense and a better quarterback. And I don't know why. We'll talk about it more during draft time. But I don't know why Michael Penix is not being considered a first-round pick. Like, that to me seems weird. I don't know the whole history with his injuries back in Indiana, but he looks legit. And he may have a lot of benefits with the receivers and the offensive line, but this guy can sling it. Like, the reality is in this game, Michael Penix just can sling the football, and Quinn Ewers could not. It took way too long for the Texas offense to get things going. It was all just predicated on the run game, which was keeping them in the ball game in the first half. But then Michael Penix just drove down the field quickly, and Texas had no answer defensively. Now, they almost fucked up the game. Like, I was ready to, okay, this is over. Put Arch Manning in the game. I want to see the future a little bit, and I was cool with that. But then they gave me hope, Steven. They gave me goddamn hope at the end, where I never see an injury totally backfire like that. The poor running back of Washington gets hurt. They can't run the clock out. They have to punt the ball. They get fair catch interference or punt interference, whatever it was. Yeah, fair catch interference. And then they get a huge play, and it's all set up on the 12-yard line. I'm like, we're going to win this fucking game. And then they don't get it in the end zone because Quinn Ewers, he drives me nuts. He's not a great quarterback. If I were him, I would transfer and just let Arch Manning play at Texas next year. But kudos to Washington. They played a great game. Their offensive coordinator, interesting guy. May want to consider him for an NFL position as far as offensive coordinator. But kudos to Kalen DeBoer and kudos to Michael Penix and Washington. They advance.
Pains you to
Yes.
say that, didn't it?
No, not really. I mean, if I could be real, I'm always realistic, Steven, and maybe arrogant. Texas
Yeah, you're
was
both.
Texas was a fraudulent team. They got lucky beating Alabama when they did, because Alabama was at its lowest, and then Texas took advantage, and that's the best I've seen Quinn Ewers play. But the rest of the season, they blew a lot of leads, and they shit the bed against Oklahoma. They should not have lost that game, but they did. There were just a lot of games where they got by. They were pretty much the Philadelphia Eagles of college football, in my opinion. And they got in, and I'm happy about that. But if they put Georgia in over Texas, I would have fully understood it. So, given everything, Washington was the better team, and Texas will go to the SEC next year and probably get shit stomped.
If Quinn Ewers would have thrown that back shoulder into the corner, then he might have completed that pass. It wasn't a good throw.
It was a terrible throw.
It was not a good throw, and they had every chance to win that game. And they probably should be in the championship, honestly, if they would have made a better throw there. Michael Penix, I looked up his injury history as you were making your way through that. 2018 season-ending ACL. 2019 dislocating the joint in his non-throwing shoulder, which ended his season there. And then 2020, he again retore his ACL and then played for 2 straight years, 2021, 2022. So 2 ACLs, 1 shoulder injury, then bounced back from both of them. So that's why. But I'm telling you, any team that gets Michael Penix as their quarterback, I think would be lucky to have him. It's just such a, especially if you're fans. I mean, if you're a team, it's one thing. If the team says they didn't like the injury history, okay. Like, that's why I don't get the Giants fans who kind of looked at the Carlos Correa deal and said, well, the team caught the injuries and so did the Mets, so they're vindicated. No, they didn't sign an all-time player. Like, they didn't sign one of the great postseason players in baseball. That's a mistake, if you're a fan, in my opinion. And in Michael Penix Jr., if you don't want him just because of his injury history and that scares you, I think that's definitely unfair towards the player. And I think whoever's getting him is getting someone very, very talented and someone who's probably bulked up a little bit since then. And granted, Washington was very good. I think heading into the semifinal, he was only sacked 11 times or something like that, which is just a crazy number. But God, that guy's good. Yeah. And we talked about it earlier on this podcast, but it's like you want to see what it looks like when they flip around his arm so it looks like he's a righty instead of a lefty. Someone posted that video today. Good God, man. The release on that guy.
Yeah.
It just shows, it's crazy. Even though it looks a little funky when he's throwing lefty. When it looks like he's throwing righty, it looks normal, it looks conventional. And that could convince you, like, damn, we could get that guy.
Yeah. Now, the Raiders will have their options as far as quarterback in the draft, but he's a guy that's very interesting. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. Let me talk about Jim Harbaugh for a second. So Vinny Bonsignore, who 2 years ago dropped the keep an eye out on Josh McDaniels nugget, and sure enough, I did not believe it, but he was named head coach. Now, Vinny, today, released an article saying that the Raiders are going to look at Jim Harbaugh as head coach. And we've heard this before, but there's mutual interest, and we know that Jim Harbaugh has hired Don Yee as his agent, which I guess a lot of people think that just means that he's going to the NFL, which could be the case, but I have no idea. Of course, we know that Don Yee represents Tom Brady, who I still think is looking for a minority stake with the Raiders. I don't know if that's official yet. And Jimmy Garoppolo, who is the Raiders quarterback for now. So there are Raider ties. But this brings us to the argument of Antonio Pierce, who on Sunday lost to the Indianapolis Colts. And it's just as far as that game. This is what happens when you play a better team. And I think the Colts are a better team. I think that Shane Steichen has done an amazing job. One of the front runners for, well, not one of the front runners, but probably in consideration for NFL Coach of the Year. I mean, that 3rd-and-1 play with the play action, he threw deep to Gardner Minshew threw deep to Allen Pierce. Great design. And I think that, I'll go back to the game in a second here, but just as far as Jim Harbaugh and Antonio Pierce, I think the Raiders have been competitive in every goddamn game that Antonio Pierce has coached. So for that, I think that's all you can ask for when you're an interim head coach. And he has a record of 4-4 right now as head coach, if I believe so. So I think that Antonio Pierce has done enough. And I don't, like we were talking about with Alon last podcast, I don't think that Mark Davis should give the whole reins of the team to somebody right now. I think that's what Jim Harbaugh is going to ask for. I think that Jim Harbaugh most likely will go to the Chargers. I don't know if that's a good move, but everything that I've heard, I guess Colin Cowherd has like a source with the Chargers organization, and he believes that they're going to change the image, that they are a cheap franchise, and they want to go all in on Harbaugh, and he'll get to choose his GM and whatnot. So I think that's probably, I don't know, a more attractive job for Jim, but I don't know if I want to go through Harbaugh. I think that the Raiders, if they do everything that we said last podcast, they get a smart offensive coordinator with him, I think they'll be fine with Antonio Pierce. I've actually changed my mind significantly on this. He's changed the culture, and that's huge. But they've been competitive in every game they've been in, and that's all you can ask for.
I'm still gonna think. I still think Antonio Pierce is the guy. I think right now he's working with a crappy offense.
Yep.
Aiden O'Connell, not a starting quarterback, and also it's worth it to acknowledge that the Raiders did get screwed over by that offsides call late in the game. That was not offside on Jack Jones.
But is the reason they lost the game?
No, it's not the reason they lost the game, but it was the reason that they didn't tie the game. So, or to me, I think that considering they were a field goal away, right? I think it was a huge reason, and it played a factor into it. So they did get screwed a little bit, but they still hold the Colts to 23. Holding a team to 23 is not easy, especially with the way that the Colts have been playing. Look at their point totals over the past few weeks. 27, 20, 31, 14, but then 30 over the Steelers. Then they scored 10 against the Falcons, but 23, that's right in the middle. That's still a very respectable number to hold that Colts offense to that. So Antonio Pierce, I think, has really won over the players. And I think he still is my number one choice. But if he's not, and Jim Harbaugh's there and they hire Jim Harbaugh, I'm going to do what I always do. And that's just accept it, talk myself into it, and then just see what happens. Because I'm numb to this team and what they can do. I'm numb to them.
I hear you, but I think there's things to be excited for in the future. And sure. I think that they have a lot of good pieces. I think that Max Crosby is, another Pro Bowler and one of the best defensive players in football. I can say that, honestly. Not better than Khalil Mack, but he's great. No, he's better than Khalil Mack now, I'll be honest. But there's going to be some interesting changes next season. I think that Zamir White has made the case that maybe they could get by with him as running back, and maybe they don't sign Josh Jacobs back. We'll see. And then you got to
given that he's not coming back, but
you think that's a done deal?
Yeah, I think it's a given that he's not.
We'll see. I mean, it depends on who gets hired as general manager. If you have Antonio Pierce, does that automatically mean you're making Champ Kelly the interim GM? I really don't know what interim GMs do. Like, it's hard to take over that job and then, unless you're making trades, what exactly are you doing? Besides putting guys on IR and whatnot. But I thought Aiden O'Connell played a very good game, way better than obviously not completing a pass after the first quarter against the Chiefs. But that's the kind of competitiveness you want to see in a Raider football team that we haven't seen a lot with Josh McDaniels. So, yeah, I mean, the Jack Jones call was iffy, but I think actually, Steven, they were up 20-13, and they could have tied the game with a touchdown. So it was big on Aiden O'Connell to respond right after that. They kicked the field goal, and then he went downfield, and it was 23-20. All they needed was a onside kick. But in the NFL, extremely hard to come by these days. And then, yeah, Devontae Adams, for how little productions he's had most of this season, to get, 13 catches for, I don't have the notes in front of me, but
126 yards.
yeah, he had a great game, 2 touchdowns. Is probably his most productive day as a Raider. Maybe not. There probably was better games, but probably the most productive, hands down, the most productive game he's had this season. So I think they're trending in the right direction. I do think they need more help on offense. If they did get Jim Harbaugh as head coach, it'd be exciting, but I don't think that's what this team needs. I think, honestly, Mark Davis is going to think about what happened last time with Rich Bisaccia, and you feel a little more confident with this guy as opposed to Rich Bisaccia. Like we talked about, he was a special teams coordinator, and you wanted to build off of a playoff season. This team needs to grow, and I think that he's actually the perfect guy to help this team grow a little bit. So I don't think Harbaugh's coming to the Raiders. I think, if anything, I've heard that he doesn't get along with the guy that runs the Bears. It's not Ryan Poles, but whatever former Big Ten commissioner that works with the Bears organization. There's no way that Jim Harbaugh will go back to Chicago. I know that he played there for a long time, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. I guess he has a good relationship with the Spanos.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the Chargers coach. And I think that him winning helped a lot with that case. And if he wins the national championship, job well done. The mission has been completed. He got the national championship, and now he can leave and go to the NFL and try to compete with his brother.
The reason I think Antonio Pierce is going to be the number one candidate is because of this clip that I heard earlier today, because of the ripple effects here. And I'm going to play it, and I want to see if you share the same opinion. Here we go. Devontae Adams on Antonio Pierce.
They say who I wanted. That's my vote, and I've been vocal about that.
Hang on. Let me start from the beginning. All right. Redo.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously who I wanted. That's my vote, and I've been vocal about that, and that's that's basically how the whole locker room feels, and with good reason. I mean, he's come in and done a great job, and he's continued to win us over. It's not just the comfortable thing. I think having AP here will be it'll be good for this organization. He kind of embodies what it means to be a Raider, and that mentality, that swag, and all the things that he endorses is the things that I believe in. So it's easy for a guy like me, especially having dealt with him a little bit this year now and gotten to know him and see his evolution, in front of the team, and all those things, all the different fields of being a head coach. So definitely rooting for him.
So I don't know what the future holds for Devontae Adams with the Raiders. I don't know if they're going to try to trade him to move up in the draft, because it seems like he'd be the number one commodity if they want to move up in that draft to get a quarterback. I don't know if Michael Penix Jr. is going to fall to whatever their pick may be. I think they have like the 13th, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's 15 right now.
15. All right.
I could be wrong.
I'll look up Tankathon as we speak, and Tankathon normally opens pretty quick. They are 11th, according to Tankathon.
Okay.
So maybe Michael Penix Jr. falls there. But if you want any chance at keeping Devontae Adams, you already pissed him off with Josh McDaniels and having Jimmy Garoppolo come in as your starting quarterback. Step one, you got the head coach that he really seems to like. So, and it seems genuine too. The other stuff, it just felt like he was talking about McDaniels and Garoppolo. It felt like he was kind of tiptoeing around what he really wanted to say and was kind of just not wanting to stir the pot. But that one felt like, yeah, that's all right. If he's on Devontae Adams' side, then all right, we can potentially keep Devontae Adams with this team if Antonio Pierce is there. I don't know if that's really going to come to fruition. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. But in my mind, in my hopeful mind, that Devontae stays there, because God, he's so good. Maybe Antonio Pierce, hiring him is step one and keeping him around too.
No doubt, but they also have to solidify the QB position. I don't think that Devontae Adams would be thrilled with Aiden O'Connell being his quarterback next season again, at least the starting quarterback. So
no doubt.
They got to figure some things out. But
and it's not like he sat there and was like, I can't wait to work with him next year.
Yeah,
he's like, yeah, he's got my vote. He's got my seal of approval. If you want him while I'm with the Jets.
Yeah. I think that if that option is out there for Devontae to be traded to the Jets, I think he'd be in favor of it. But I don't think he's going to demand a trade. I don't think he's going to pull any antics next season. I think he's going to honor his contract. But if there's opportunities that come up where he could be traded, he's not going to say no. So we'll see what happens. Black Monday is going to happen on Monday, obviously, and we will see what comes to fruition. If I had to guess right now, I think Antonio Pierce probably will come back as Raiders head coach, and I think he's earned that right, and I'm okay with that. It just needs to coincide with a big hire at offensive coordinator. As far as other teams, I think Belichick is going to say goodbye to the Patriots. I think they'll have a mutual parting. I don't think there's going to be a trade or anything like that. There's some things that have come out with Mike Vrabel lately. Like, I think initially Diana Rossini said that the Titans want him to come back, but I don't know if he wants to come back. You see that clip this past week where he says losing sucks, it's shitty, I can't stand it.
Yeah.
And they seem to be in a rebuild situation, and I wonder how long he's going to tolerate that. And I think the Patriots have Gerard Mayo in mind to be their next head coach. But if Mike calls up Robert Kraft and he says, "Can you find a way to get me out of here?" I think he'd be open to that too. But I don't know if that's a good move to go from the Titans to the Patriots right now. But who knows? I have no idea. Arthur Smith, your guy. You think he's gonna get fired?
I think there's a pretty solid chance. I thought he was one of the up and coming minds in football, but good Lord, it's like he's outsmarting himself this entire season. I love God, who put it this way? I wish I could credit them. Somebody put him not playing Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts, or at least not getting the ball in their hands, is like if Steve Kerr would give the ball to Festus Ezeli and Andrew Bogut and ran the offense through those two. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. That's an apt comparison. You saying like Tyler Algier is Festus Ezeli?
It's just a funny one. It's a funny comparison because it's like you're not using your stars. Like, use your stars. It doesn't seem to be that complicated, but he's trying to think he's outsmarting everyone. And the way that he's handled Desmond Ridder, who knows? I don't know what's up with the Falcons. I don't know what they think of him, but things aren't going well.
If I had to guess, that's just my guess. I think that Arthur Blank is going to help out another Arthur because they have the same name. No, I think that he's going to talk to Arthur Smith and give him one more year, and they have to get the quarterback position right. And if they could do that, then he'll stick around. So I think he's gonna get one more year. Yeah, I would, just because they were in contention for the NFC South. I think they'll get one more year as Falcons head coach. And then Matt Eberflus, I see a lot of things about like him getting fired. The Bears have played well down the stretch. I know that it's kind of a disappointment this season, but from where they were a season ago to only winning 3 games to now winning 7 and a chance to knock out the Packers in the playoffs, that's interesting. So, and they got to decide like a whole thing this offseason. Like, do they want to go through what they did a season ago by trading away the first overall pick to get a bunch of picks, to pass on Bryce Young, to pass on Caleb Williams? Justin Fields is playing well, and he's talking shit to the Green Bay Packers fans, which I know Bears fans will love. So, if I had to make the decision right now, I would keep Eberflus and I would keep Justin Fields, and I would trade Caleb Williams or the rights to Caleb Williams to somebody else.
I feel like the Bears go through this every year, though. And it happened with Justin Fields last year, where you're convinced that he's going to be like an MVP candidate after the way he closed out last season. So I don't know if I'd stick with Eberflus moving forward. I don't know.
It would be a short leash.
He might have saved his job coming up, but it's a few slip-ups in the first half of the season. Like, I think it's gone for Eberflus. He's out.
His defensive coordinator did get almost arrested and then fired, or whatever the hell happened there.
Yeah, bizarre.
So a lot of things happened. It's tough. I mean, we got a whole offseason to talk about this till draft time, but they got to make a really hard decision on Justin Fields. But you can look at it as, are you getting, like, is it a guaranteed thing with Caleb Williams? And what's the draft stock with Justin Fields? Are you getting a second round pick or a third round pick as opposed to the first overall pick, and you're getting a bounty of picks after that? It's the kind of the similar situation from a year ago, but they got plenty of time to figure that out. Guys, I think are definitely getting fired. Ron Rivera. And then, Belichick. I think it won't be categorized as a firing, but it'll be a mutual parting. So that's I think the only definite things right now. And then I
Yeah.
think there'll probably be some surprises here or there come Black Monday. Like, oh, I didn't see that guy getting fired, but shit like that always happens every year.
I don't think, and I've seen someone with Robert Saleh. I don't think Saleh's getting fired.
No, I mean, Woody Johnson already said they're coming back, and that's the benefit of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, we started this podcast talking about like Pat McAfee won't say shit to him. You best believe the Jets won't say shit to him. They want this hype. They actually want to see this come to fruition. Like this has been the biggest tease for the last year of Aaron Rodgers playing quarterback for the Jets, and they want to see this pay off, whether it's having success or not. And it may cost everybody their jobs, but it's going to happen. Should I talk about the Niners?
Yeah, man.
All right, you give your opinion, and I've prolonged this too long. I lost. I'm going to eat this popcorn chip with some hot sauce. So, what do you think of the Niners? Win, impressive, kind of. But the bigger thing is they locked up the number 1 seed.
Yeah, the NFC is going to roll through them. They got a one-way ticket to the Super Bowl right now, and I just look, barring a massive upset, I don't think any team's beating them. Not because of Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's leading the conversation and led all vote getters. But I think what's interesting is we need to take off the kid gloves when talking about him next year. Like this year, I got to be honest, the throw, all right, it was the drive, really the one drive that kind of sealed it for them against Washington, against the worst passing defense in the league in the Commanders. I know the reaction to his throw where looked like the pocket collapsed on him, looked like he was going to get sacked. Then he breaks out of it, rolls out to his right, redirects Brandon Ayuk. It was a beautiful play, and then throws across his body and hits him when he's wide open. It was a great play. It really was. But I think the reaction to it, we were treating it as if he's never done that before. And I know this is coming off a couple of weeks where he's been touted as like some sort of game manager and, the Cam Newton stuff, and all of that was amplified after the Ravens game. But that Ravens game was just one game. Did people forget that Purdy's been doing this all season? Like maybe not like that play, but I don't blame fans for reacting in the way that they did. But it sounded like to me, if I didn't see the throw and I just looked through social media, I would have thought it's the greatest throw I've ever seen in my life. like I would have thought it was some sort of deep shot as he's getting hit. No, he hit a wide open Brandon Ayuk. When that type of play, there's a reason why it's called a scramble drill, because they run that play. They practice it. And Ayuk was wide open. Terrific play, terrific way to manage it and to that word's kind of a trigger word now. It was a terrific way to redirect his player when he was clearly covered. Credit Ayuk, though, for being able to stop on a dime and get over, because I don't think we're giving Ayuk nearly enough credit. But I just think we need to take off the kid gloves when we're talking about this guy next year, and just instead of saying, "Ooh, Brock Purdy with some magic," it's just, no, this is what Brock Purdy does. Like, this is him. He's that good. Like, I just think we need to talk about him in a different way next season if we want the perception of him, which seems to really matter. There's a reason why he was voted number 1 in the Pro Bowl. Fans really care about him. They really, really have this loyalty to Brock Purdy. And I think when you have him potentially becoming a Pro Bowler, I think you got a lot of 49er fans to tune in and vote there, especially ones across the nation. There's a lot of Niner fans out there. But that was kind of my big takeaway from that. But other than the game, they're 1 seed. It's perfect. The rest versus rust stuff, it may seem complicated, but it's not. You rest your starters as much as you can. Maybe you play them a little bit against the Rams, but man, all you got to do is win 2 games and you're into the Super Bowl. What's better than that?
Nobody. All right, I got hot sauce on the popcorner here. I'm just gonna eat it.
Nice.
All right, I'm with you, Steven, on the throw. I think people really appreciated it because it kind of proved that Brock Purdy is not a system quarterback. He can make the off-schedule throws. So that was impressive. But yeah, That's a normal scramble drill. Excuse me.
Yeah. Scrambled eggs. Turn the Washington Commanders defense into scrambled eggs. What kind of hot sauce you go with? The Apollo one?
Yeah, the Apollo.
Oh,
But it was a good rebound. It was a good rebound for Brock Purdy's
totally.
4 interception performance against the Ravens. The McCaffrey calf strain, kind of concerning, but if they didn't have the 1 seed, it'd be a bigger deal. So he's got plenty of time to figure that out. His season's done. It's one of the best running back seasons we've seen in quite some time. When you think about it, Steven, do you know
AJ Cruz, I'll give you a break, but Derek sounds like he's about to make an offer I can't refuse.
you come to me the day that I ate this hot sauce on my daughter's wedding? If you had to guess, Steven, if you don't already know, who is the second leading rusher in all of football? Next to the
Second, James Cook.
Not anymore.
I don't know.
Kyron Williams.
Oh,
You know how many games Kyron Williams has missed this season?
0?
5.
Oh, shoot.
What McCaffrey's done this season is quite remarkable because not only was the running back position devalued in the offseason, but we saw it slowly decline during the playing season. He is 300 yards better than Kyron Williams. And Raheem Mostert made the Pro Bowl, great season, scored 21 touchdowns. But look at his rushing stats. He barely cracked 1,000. This was a season that I think we'll remember of being one of the last greatest running back seasons because it's not going to be like this going forward. Guys are going to lose money, and I don't think we're going to see guys put up numbers like this. So for that, I think McCaffrey solidified winning Offensive Player of the Year. I don't think Tyreek Hill is catching that record for receiving yards. So amazing season for Christian McCaffrey. Should be an MVP contention, but he won't be. So I think he's Offensive Player of the Year, hands down. As far as the game, yeah, they went in there and they kicked the Washington Commanders' ass because they're just a better team, and Washington's been a terrible team. So, it's a solid game. Not a huge performance from Chase Young like I was kind of expecting for his homecoming, but they played great. As far as them getting the 1 seed, it's huge, absolutely huge. I think this team is better than the 2019 team. And if you remember back then when they had that 1 seed, their biggest competition were 2 other 13-3 teams. They had to deal with the New Orleans Saints and the Green Bay Packers. And the Saints lost, I think, in the first round that year, the wild card round of the Vikings, and they kicked the Packers' ass. This year, the competition in the NFC, I don't see anybody, to be honest. We'll get to Philly in a little bit here, but they're reeling big time. The Cowboys, I don't see them going into Levi's and beating them.
No.
The Rams are the only team that I actually consider maybe have a chance, but that's a slim chance. I think the Niners are hands down the best team in the NFC. I think they're going to the Super Bowl, and that's going to be really hard, especially going to Vegas. But I think the only team that stands in the 49ers' way right now is the Baltimore Ravens. And just talk about their performance, incredible. To go from the performance they had on Christmas Day, 33-19, to then have a battle for the number 1 seed in the AFC. Whoever won that game was going to have that. And they kicked the Dolphins' ass thoroughly. Like, they didn't have Jalen Waddle. They didn't have Raheem Mostert. But that was a thorough ass kicking. The Ravens didn't have Kyle Hamilton. Like, I've been sleeping on the Ravens for a lot of this season, and I have been sleeping on Lamar Jackson. And I would take a lot of satisfaction if you prove me wrong and won the Super Bowl, and he's going to win MVP, no doubt now, when you have a back-to-back performance like that, the 2 touchdowns against the Niners and the 5 touchdowns against the Dolphins. Stats are stats. The reality is Lamar Jackson's the MVP. And that's quite a remarkable story from what happened earlier this year where team like the Baltimore Ravens at one point were saying, whoever wants to talk to him, and nobody did, which it would have paid. You had to pay a pretty penny to get him. So I think that's probably why the reason teams would go after him. But
Yeah.
he got the contract, and it paid off. But if the Baltimore Ravens do play the Niners in the Super Bowl, I don't know who I pick at this point. I think that's
Yeah.
the only team that could kick the Niners' ass right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see anything in the NFC standing in their way. I don't see any team even being any threat at all. Like, the Niners just beating down on teams. And look, I'll say this: if they don't make it to the NFC Championship, good God, that would be maybe the biggest disappointment. I'm not going to say like in franchise history, but like every single year that they've made the 1 seed and they've had that first round bye, they've at least made it to the NFC Championship every single year. And it's been a lot of years of that. But like, NFC Championship is the standard for what they need to do with that first round bye. It's a lot of pressure, but I don't think it matters because the NFC kind of stinks this year, and that's just the reality. And it seems like it's the 49ers time. Do you buy into the whole Super Bowl logo conspiracy thing? Because I got a little bit of a problem with that.
Because it's purple and red?
No, not. It's not so much this year's, because it looks like the Ravens and the Niners could be in the Have you seen this conspiracy?
No.
So the NFL, supposedly, with the colors that they come out with the Super Bowl logo, those are the 2 teams that get into the Super Bowl, and that dates back to 2021. The only problem I have with it, and I'll pull it up here, the only problem I have with it is the one with the
what I said, Steven, that's red and purple.
Totally. No, totally. And the thing I don't buy, though, the one with the Bengals is not orange. It's red.
Sorry,
it's red.
I thought of Walk Hard. The Hulk is a twin brother. He's not green. He's red.
It's red.
Yeah, I know.
It's not orange. Is that orange? Am I just off?
It can be orange. That has a hint of orange. Yeah. No, yeah, that could happen. That very well could happen.
Yeah. But anyway, and Rockin' Air is right. Yeah, Derek just said that. Yes.
Yeah, after you discounted me, you arrogant bastard.
No, I totally agree with you. There's if they lose, then it's just going to be a massive upset if they lose any time before the Super Bowl. My question to you, though, is, let's just say, because the Ravens are clearly the team to beat, right? There's no doubt about that in the AFC.
Over the Niners? Oh, in the AFC? Absolutely.
But let's just say that I don't know how the playoffs are going to shake down. Actually, let me take a look at the playoff picture just so I can get like an appropriate. You know what? Screw that.
We'll go through all the scenarios.
Well, let's just say in the AFC Championship, whether it's the Chiefs or the Bills, whoever gets there, I don't know, maybe even the Dolphins. But let's just say the AFC Championship, let's just say it's one of those teams, whoever, and they beat the Ravens.
Okay.
And they handle them. And it's not like the Ravens beat themselves, because that's what it seems like with the Niners. It seems like the only way the Niners are going to lose in the NFC is if they beat themselves, right? Okay. They make stupid mistakes, right? Which we don't see that happening because they're just too good of a team and they're going to be healthy. They're going to be hungry to get back. But what if, say, the Bills or the Chiefs handle the Ravens? Would you still feel that way about the AFC, where it's like, oh, this Chiefs and Bills team, they're on a streak, they're on a tear right now? Or is it just, if it's Ravens, then I might actually, consider having the AFC win the Super Bowl? Or is it just like, if it's not the Ravens, it's the Niners. They're going to win no matter what.
Not necessarily. I think the Niners definitely should make the Super Bowl. With what they've done the last 2 seasons to get there on the doorstep and to not get to the Super Bowl, this is their season.
Totally.
Everything's lining up for them kind of perfectly. So I honestly have no doubts. Things happen, injuries happen. You never want to wish that, but something could happen. But I think it's all set for the Niners to at least be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl. As far as the AFC, I do think Baltimore is the hottest team, but I would not be surprised if Buffalo beat them, or even the Chiefs, if it got to that point. Now the Chiefs, it's hard to see right now because They're reeling offensively too, and I would even say it's hard to see with the Bills right now. But I do believe that currently, I I could see the Chiefs or the Bills possibly beating the Niners, but this Niner team is totally different. I mean, their offense is better than the Bills and Chiefs right now.
Right.
I think the Ravens are the only team that are as physical as the Niners right now.
I understand that. I just think that AFC teams this year, the reason that the 49ers have struggled against the AFC teams is because the AFC teams have played a lot better defenses this year. You look at the top, just, I don't know, 15. Look at the top half. A majority of the top defenses are AFC teams. I don't know why, but the NFC defense kind of stunk. You know, the
Yeah.
Eagles, the Lions was fine. The hell you doing? Yo,
Cowboys defense was good.
Cowboys defense was good. Phoebe,
what do you
hey,
think?
Phoebe, what do you got? Huh? You like the Panthers, don't you?
Yeah, I was
Cats.
about to say that. Yeah,
Damn
but your
cat.
owner sucks. Can I just
I'm
say
gonna
that real
swing.
quick? Jackass of the week, David Tepper. What an asshole.
Might
This
get the
guy-
Giammi for Jackass of the Year.
Yeah, like we'll do those next week. Yeah, that guy. Like if you didn't think he had a temper already with how he reacts to every loss that Frank Reich was going to have in a building year for Bryce Young, to throw alcohol on a fan and then not even apologize, to have to use the change he got out of his sock drawer for $300K. Give me a break. What an asshole. Just clown behavior.
Yeah. It's just that was an embarrassment. It was a
Yeah.
total embarrassment. But I don't know, man. I just think if it's not the Ravens, then I think it's absolutely the 49ers to lose.
Yeah.
And I think they're right there. I don't, even if the Bills or the Chiefs make it, like I think it's really, you have to have a complete team. And I think it's just the Ravens and that's it. That's it. There's nothing else.
I still have a hard time seeing the Ravens win it though. Despite how good they've looked from what I've seen in the past with them in the playoffs, I got to see it first. With the Niners, I could see it.
Yeah. Not easily. I don't know who their first round opponent's going to be.
Well, still got a lot to figure out.
I mean, what? Jesus, there's a lot going on next week.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Before we get to all that, just some quick hits. I definitely don't think the Eagles are any threat to the Niners right now. They are just losing it. Like, to lose that game was catastrophic, in my opinion.
Embarrassing.
Now, I do understand it because Jonathan Gannon knows the Eagles very well, so I'm sure he had some knowledge on them. But to lose 4 out of 5 after their 10-1 start, they're just up Schitt's Creek. Like, I think even AJ Brown came out today and said like they didn't know what the hell they were doing at the end of the Seattle game. Like Jalen Hurts just threw a ball up in the end zone when they could have gotten field goal range to try to tie that game. But to be up 21-6, I think they were up against the Cardinals. To blow that is just bad. I still think that, I mean, they'll make the playoffs. I still think they could beat the Buccaneers if that's who they play in the first round. Most likely. We'll see if they get the 2 seed. But they got to rebuild that defense in the offseason. And they got to I think Nick Sirianni has to consider maybe taking over play calling next season to leave it on Brian
Can he?
Johnson. He did before, but then again, I mean, God, that video. Did you see that video of that Eagles fan watching the game? Fire Sirianni,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
Italian douchebag.
Yeah.
Like, he's not wrong. I mean, I've been saying that for a couple weeks now, where I think that his offense is simplistic, and maybe he needs to take it over. But yeah, Matt Patricia's not helping. Pencil and all, that team is reeling right now, and getting Darius Slay back in the playoffs, I don't think is going to help them. I think they'll beat Tampa, but if they have to play the Niners in the second round, oof, they may get embarrassed even more.
They really did turn into the Vikings, the 2022 Vikings, or whatever. Yeah, 2022. Yeah. They turned into the 2022 Vikings, man. Just terrible.
Yeah, fraudulent.
And, Jalen Hurts only speaks in quotes, but there's no hiding. Just there's something they're lacking. I don't know what it is. Next year they're probably going to have a new center. No Jason Kelsey next year. He's on that 1-year deal. He's probably going to be done. And I don't know if that unravels the right word, Ernie, too. Did the Niners loss just unravel Philly? I think it definitely exposed them for what they really are.
Yeah. I think it shook them. I think coming off the Bills game, they were like, we're indestructible. We're the best team of football. And they got punched in the mouth and they were like, ooh, shit. We tried our best and we couldn't keep up with those guys. And maybe all the shit they talked a year ago was right. And now doubt starts to creep in. I don't think they've recovered since that Niner loss.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like they had at the beginning of the season, they had like pretend they're a car. They had like the body of a Ferrari, but the engine of like a Honda Civic. And I know that because that's my car. But now
a broken chairlift.
Or a broken chairlift. They were halfway up that mountain. They were climbing on that chairlift, but they've been stuck on that chairlift.
Yeah, but they'll get there, but it's a bad ride.
Now they're actually on the other side. They're going downhill now. They reached the apex. That was when they were 10-1. Then they just went down. They never got off the chairlift.
Yeah, or
up that mountain.
Yeah, I mean they're stuck there like Larry David and the girl, and they gotta survive up there and eat the edible panties.
And so
you have to get off the chairlift, and just Larry's eating that with fucking the panties in his mouth. He's like, "What are you, fucking nuts?"
Or Guru's Cadillac engine.
Oh yeah, Guru is known for his engine to die down a couple times.
Yeah, except were you in the car when we were smashing down 880 in that thing?
When?
Plank.
Yeah, I was there.
That was great. You wouldn't think that Cadillac engine. You'd think that was a Ferrari by the way we were driving in that thing. Whew.
I've been in Guru's caddy before, where he's rapping along his own freestyle to whatever songs on the radio.
Yeah.
What'd you make of the Lions Cowboys ending?
I was very confused by it because I didn't watch it live, which was unfortunate. But so, can you explain what happened? Can you give an overview here? So
sure.
Taylor Decker reported to the official. I saw the replay. The official looked like he acknowledged him, but then the officials said that they were trying to what's for lack of a better term, they were trying to put a little gamesmanship into it and try to fool the Cowboys by reporting. It was a very confusing situation.
There were 3 offensive linemen that were in the same area when Taylor Decker reported eligible. But I guess I forget the official's name, but he didn't see Taylor Decker report. He saw somebody else, I guess, report, and that confused him. And Steve Perry, I think it's Steve Perry or whoever it is, the referee that's on ESPN. It may not be Steve Perry. I'm maybe confusing the Aerosmith guitarist.
Mike Perry.
Yeah, Steve Perry's the Aerosmith guy.
It's Journey.
Oh yes, Steve Perry. Well, who am I?
Steven Tyler is from Aerosmith.
No. There's the guitarist from Aerosmith has a Perry name. I'll look it up later. Oh God, is it Joe Perry? Whoever it is.
Joe Perry. Joe Perry.
Yeah, Joe Perry. Okay, Mike Perry basically was defending his fellow referees in the post game with Scott Van Pelt saying that the Taylor Decker needs to be more demonstrative to say that he's eligible, but then then it gives it away. So I think that the referees totally fucked up. I think that they can't take accountability for screwing that game up, but they 100% did. However, Dan Campbell, hey man, you're going to win Coach of the Year and you're biting kneecaps and you're shitting out coffee, but dude, you got to be able to adapt to a game. If it sucks, like they should have went up by 1, it was a great play call, but they got penalized. It sucks. They got fucked over. But then you can't go back out there and be so gung-ho and stubborn. And in the post game, he was like, I told my team, no matter what, we're going out there and we're going to go for 2 and win the game. But when that happens, it's kind of deflating. You got to be like, well, shit, I guess. And they got pushed back. So then at that point, you're like, maybe we get the extra point. And then you get another, you get lucky, you get bailed out. Micah Parsons is offsides, so you get another chance for a 2-point conversion. At that point, you just count your losses and say, kick the extra point. Let's save this damn game and go to overtime. But no, Dan Campbell has to go for it again because he's too goddamn stubborn and they lose the game. So while I blame the officials for screwing up that moment, I blame Dan Campbell for the loss because he could have got his team to overtime and not been so goddamn stubborn over what happened.
100%. You're right. And I think he knows that too. I think he knows that.
He was coaching off emotion. It was stupid. It was absolutely stupid.
Totally. But that's just who he is, and that's why we love Dan Campbell. Can we play the clip of him doing the media appearance afterwards? This is amazing.
Is this I think this is from after the game. Oh wait, is this directly after the game?
I think it's directly after, or it was.
Yeah, this is it because he's got a dip in. Like I love this. He's
fuming.
He's so pissed. You can see the dip in his cheek, and he's fucking pacing, crumbling up papers. Yeah, this is great.
I'm good. I woke up yesterday.
Oh wait,
I'm ready,
no.
man.
Sorry, Steven. This is actually the day after.
This is the day after.
Yeah.
All right. He's still pissed though.
Yeah, but he's always got a dip in. You can see it.
I've got controlled fury, and I'm ready to go. I'm absolutely ready to go. I don't go the other way. So, and the team won't either. We're on a mission, and we're not going to feel sorry for ourselves and wallow in everything. We had plays to make, we didn't make them, and it's a tight game, a good opponent, playoff type atmosphere, and you got to make that one extra play that we didn't. And so we will use this as fuel. I got pure octane right now. I woke up, I'm ready. So we're moving forward.
Yeah, it's a hot mic, ready to go, Dan Campbell. Well, the best was the post game where one of the reporters was like, "Can you explain your frustration?" He's like, "Well, what would you do? Like you think I'm going to be all calm about this? Like no, like this is one of my favorite questions in post games is when like, can you explain your frustrations? Like I can explain it. I can show you. I'm pissed off. We got screwed. Is
this one?
Yeah.
70 reported.
Oh, he had gum. It wasn't dip.
The explanation was 70 reported.
He's walking away from the mic.
I had to go throw it away.
Yes.
He's looking at stats, crumbling it up.
Announce that if both players report.
Two people can't report.
Yes, they can.
We'll talk about it. All right. I explain everything pregame to a T. Okay, I did that. 70 reported, 58 didn't, or 68 didn't. We threw it to 68. That was the explanation.
Can you just explain the mentality to go for two there at the end? Obviously, you wanted to keep the game in your hand and try to win it.
I told the offense that we were going down 141 left. We're going to go down and score, and then we're going to go for two and finish this game out. I told them that, and so that's what we were doing.
And being backed up, that didn't change anything when you get backed up to the
Backed
seven
up where?
To the 7 instead of the 2 from the 2-point play. Did you think at all?
We were going for win.
We were going for a win. We are championship. The best part though is at the end where the guy's like, "Can you explain, your anger?" Is like, what do you think? Yeah, I'm angry. He was too stubborn. He was way too stubborn. And the biggest thing out of all this is after everything that went down on Sunday with the Eagles losing to the Cardinals, if the Lions would have won that game, they could have been playing for the 1 seed. If they beat the Vikings and the Niners lost to the Rams this weekend, they would have been the number 1 seed in the NFC. And that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been a different weekend, I guess. The weekend had a lot riding on it. I was sad I missed that game. I forgot why I missed that game, but I had something going on Saturday. So, yeah. Damn it.
Yeah, that
Oh,
sucks.
well.
Just other quick hits. The Bills survived against the Patriots, but I got to be honest, the last 2 weeks, I think they will beat the Dolphins because the Dolphins, oof. Did you watch that Hard Knocks one that came out last night?
I haven't watched any of the new Hard Knocks. I only watched the first episode.
God, they acted like it was a funeral with them getting shit stomped by the Ravens. And on top of all that, Bradley Chubb being lost. I mean, They lost already Jalen Phillips to a torn Achilles. Now that Bradley Chubb tore his ACL. Good Lord. And Tua's hurt. He'll play, but he's hurt. They don't know if Jalen Waddle is going to play. Tyreek Hill, his house caught on fire today. Like, everything's going against the Dolphins right now. So I'm taking the Bills to win that game. I'll already tell you that. Like, we'll do our picks later. We'll release that before Saturday's game. But I'm taking the Bills to win that game. But the Bills don't look great. Like, they've skirted by against bad teams, the Chargers and the Patriots the last 2 weeks.
Mike McDaniel should have gone for that record against the Broncos.
In hindsight now?
Yeah, in hindsight, he's like
it's all catching up to him now.
He believes in karma. He believed in well, all of this happened to you anyway. Should have just gone for the record. No, it sucks. It sucks seeing that all happen because they were a fun story to start the year. It's like, this could be one of the greatest offenses we've ever seen. Then it fell off.
Well, they'll still make the playoffs, and if they're healthy by playoff time, I wouldn't be surprised if they go into Arrowhead if it comes to that 3-6 matchup and they beat the Chiefs. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Chiefs, they did enough to win the AFC West. They got a bunch of field goals. They got to resort to a lot of trick plays to score right now. I'm not buying. This is the least confident I've been in a Chief team going into the postseason.
Yeah.
So while they won the AFC West, they could be themselves come playoff time, but the reality is, who is Patrick Mahomes going to throw to right now? It's just Rasheed Rice and Travis Kelce. So they won the AFC West, but I kind of think by default at this point.
Yep.
Rams survive a weird game against the Giants where the Giants decided to go for 2 and Tyrod Taylor missed Saquon Barkley terribly. But yeah, Stafford was a little off in that game, missed field goal by Mason Crosby, but the Rams are interesting. Rams are an interesting team. They, I think, could be a sneaky team in the wildcard weekend to upset whoever they play and then play the Niners and then get shit stomped by the Niners probably. But they're fun to watch right now. Puka Nacua, 28 yards away from a rookie receiving record. So right now I'd say it's the Niners and it's the Rams and maybe the Lions that are going in with the most confidence, I would say right now.
Well, no, it's interesting because I don't know if it's because he's in love with Matthew Stafford, but even before this weekend's games, Dan Orlovsky was saying on ESPN, because the discussion naturally was with the Lions and Cowboys, the winner of that, would that be the team that would be the biggest threat to the Niners in the NFC? The winner of that one? Is that and he's like, no, neither of those. He said he thinks the Rams are, just with the way their offense is rolling. And he's like, it's not because of their defense. He's just like, I don't think that offense is one the Niners defense wants to see. And I don't think the Niners want to get in a shootout early. So I think that's the last team they want to face in the NFC right now. It's just, they might not have to. So, so the biggest threat could be out even before the Niners even play a playoff game. So
no, that's definitely true. But I agree. I think everybody that I think we've talked to this week says that the Rams are probably the biggest threat to the Niners just because of how well they know each other amongst the teams that are going to be in the NFC playoffs. Todd Bowles did win a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, but that's a totally different team. And Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford know how to win. So it's not the same team that won the Super Bowl, but they can find some old magic. So.
And even with a less than 100% team that they had in the second week, or was it the third week of the season, whatever it was,
second
really
week.
Well, I mean, the Rams were playing pretty damn well in the first half. It's the second half that got away from them, so it's a different team from that point. So that'd be a very interesting matchup. But I agree with that too.
Yep. Packers are winning in scenario after their big win against the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, that was, Jared Hall's not ready to play, so that whole thing was weird. But Jordan Love's playing very well. I think the most passing touchdowns a guy has thrown in his first season as a Packers starter. So that's saying something compared to Rodgers and Favre. But they'll be interesting team too if they make the playoffs. But I don't have a lot of faith in them. I think if they make it, they could jump up over the Rams. We'll get to that in a little bit here. But it's interesting. I thought when they beat the Lions on Thanksgiving Day, I thought they could have been a playoff team, and now they're on the cusp of doing that.
Yeah. I did not watch any of that game on Sunday night.
No, that's fair. It was New Year's Eve, so hopefully you're doing better things.
I was not. But
was it trying to think of any New Year's Eve's movies? Not a whole lot. When Harry Met Sally?
Watched Barbie, then Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, how was both of those? Because there's been many a night where I'm like, am I high enough to watch either of these now? No, I'm not.
Second time watching Barbie, I actually think it's pretty fun. Hey man,
watched it twice now.
Yeah,
saw it in theaters.
Saw it in theaters and
okay, I didn't know that.
Watched it again. Though, call me crazy. I think Ryan Gosling's one of the funniest actors out right now.
I have heard that his performance
he just cracks me up, man. I don't know what it is.
I have heard that his performance is quite incredible in it.
He's just really leaning into it, and it's kind of like he's playing it, but more as like a joke to kind of make himself laugh. And he does have a great sense of humor. There's this clip from the Graham Norton show where this English comedian is telling a very English story that would gross out a lot of American people, but Ryan Gosling really understood the joke and he was cracking up. So I think he's got a great sense of humor. I think he's one of the funniest people like that's acting currently.
Okay.
In a time when there's not much comedy. And then Super Mario Brothers is it was my first time seeing Super Mario Brothers, and it's fantastic. I loved it.
Was it as good as a live action movie?
No. Nothing's going to be as good as Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo.
Thank you. Give credit where credit is due for that movie. It's an all-time in movie cinema history. It's redundant, but in cinema history, one of the best lines ever. What's your name? Mario. What's your last name? Mario. Your name's Mario? Mario? Yeah. It's great. No, I'm gonna check it out because I heard Jack Black as Bowser is quite interesting.
Oh, he's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
awesome.
He sings in it. He sings. No, I'll check out Barbie. I've been very hesitant for whatever reason because I'm a man, but I'll get around to watching
it. Yeah.
Just real quick here, the last thing. NFC South. Saints won, but I don't have any faith in any of those teams. Saints can make the playoffs if they beat the Falcons. Buccaneers make it if they just beat the Panthers. Cool, but in the end, I think any of those teams are going to lose in the first round to the Eagles or the Cowboys.
I don't see it happening either.
Yeah.
It's a boring NFC playoff picture. Well, not necessarily the playoff picture, but really you kind of know how it's going to go.
You think so? Okay, so this is the deal for this weekend. So the most interesting game by far is Bills-Dolphins because that one is straight up winning in.
Don't know how the seeding is going to go, but we kind of know how it's going to go in the playoffs is what I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough.
The seeding is completely up in the air this coming week.
Okay. So the Bills will know by Sunday night whether they have the opportunity to go for the win, or if they win, they have a chance to, or if they lose, they still have an opportunity to make the playoffs. Basically, who wins that game wins the AFC East. But if the Steelers lose to the Ravens, who are going to arrest Lamar Jackson, and if the Jaguars lose to the Titans, then the Bills still have a chance to be a wild card team. But the Titans are playing for the Titans aren't playing for anything. The Jaguars are playing for the AFC South. If they win that game, then they win the division. Steelers are playing for a playoff spot, but they are looking for an opportunity just to be a wild card team at this point. The Colts and Texans play Saturday night. That game is for possibly the AFC South Division Championship if the Jaguars lose, but the winner of that team will get a wild card berth at the worst. So that's interesting. Then I went to the NFC South stuff, whatever. If the Eagles win, then they have a chance at the 2 seed. If the Cowboys win, they leapfrog the Eagles because of the Eagles' loss to the Cardinals. That's one more conference loss. So it looks like the Cowboys will get that 2 seed while the Eagles have to go on the road for the Eagles have to go on the road for that wild card berth. And then finally here, this one's interesting. So one of the more interesting matchups we could have on wild card weekend is the Lions going to Detroit, which would be significant because the Lions have not had a home playoff game in 30 years. And it would be so juicy, and the irony would be great if the first playoff game they have at home is against their longtime quarterback, Matthew Stafford. Here's the way that has to happen. The Eagles have to win, the Cowboys have to win, and the Rams have to beat the Niners, along with the Packers. Well, the Packers game doesn't matter, but so let's say the Packers win. This is where things get so convoluted with the fucking.
Damn it! You had me, and then I'm lost.
I know. I sound like Steve Karnacki. So
yes, you do.
Here's the deal. The Packers beat the Rams earlier this year. If they're both 9-8, the Packers leapfrog the Rams, which then would make the Rams the 7th seed and have them play potentially the Cowboys or the Eagles. And there's also a chance the Lions get the 2 seed. It's so fucking convoluted. What we need to happen for that matchup is the Lions to win, the Eagles to win, the Cowboys to win, and then you need doesn't matter what happens in the Packers game, but you need the Rams to win their game to go to 10-7, so they don't have to be tied with the Packers. But that's kind of weird at the moment because the Niners are going to rest all their guys. Sam Darnold's going to play in that game. He's going to start. And then the Rams are resting all their guys. So it's Carson Wentz. Think about that. Carson Wentz versus Sam Darnold. Kind of a preseason game for the last week of the season. So I don't know if we're going to get that matchup because I think it's going to be hard for the Rams to win that game with all their backups playing. But who knows? No clue. Carson Wentz could have an amazing day. I just think it's going to be difficult for us to get that matchup, which would be very juicy on Wildcard Weekend.
Pass.
What?
There's so much going on there.
Just pass on that explanation. Yeah, I don't blame you. There's nothing more awkward than having to explain playoff scenarios. Like, well, if this happens and then that happens, if there's a three-legged sack race on like the whole basketball thing when Dan Patrick and Kenny Mayne are talking about it, it's like, well, if this happens and this happens, if there's a leap year in the first calendar year, it's a lot of hypotheticals. We'll just see it all play out. But week 18 is the more.
I was looking at whether there's Sam Darnold versus Carson Wentz with the Eagles and Jets, but Luke Falk started the game for the Jets when they played the Eagles.
Luke Falk, huh?
Yeah.
Nothing's more awkward than week 18 football with all the scenarios and guys that aren't playing. We're having Jeff Driscoll play for the Browns. Think about that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
gonna run all over the field. Jeff Driscoll, sneaky with legs.
He is. All right. I think that's it for this week. We're not going to do a show on Saturday because we got the 2 games. So yeah, we'll be back next week. We'll react to the first round matchups. We'll see who gets fired come playoff Monday or Black Monday. And then we'll do our J-Yommies, our Jammies. We'll find a way to do that next week. One show we'll do it next week, whether it's the reaction show or the preview show. We'll figure it out. My cuz counter was at 14 today. Nice job, Abraham Cruz.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all I got to say for tonight, Steven. Anything you want to say?
Hang on. I didn't see it, but today, Luke Littler. Have you heard that name? Luke Littler?
No.
Luke Littler, 16-year-old, youngest finalist in the World Darts Championships in England today. Luke the Nuke Littler is what they call him. 16 in darts, and he was beaten by Luke Humphreys. So it's a shame.
It's a Luke battle.
It was a Luke battle. It was Luke the Nuke versus Cool Hand Luke. Cool Hand Luke is a lot better for darts. Luke the Nuke you're just trying to find something that rhymes. I mean, that sounds like he could, he's just really good at microwaving stuff.
Or he could be Luke the Duke and he's good at pooping.
Makes sense for England.
Yeah.
But he lost. So shout out to Luke, though. 16 years old, just 17 days shy of his 17th birthday, and he is in the final, the first ever, then sensational sensation. That's how the Sky Sports guy said it. Literally said sensational.
I do love the Sky Sports announcers.
Mm-hmm. Luke Littler. He does not look 17, though. It's good God. That guy has probably spent a lot of time in pubs when he was younger.
Before we get out of here real quick, I want to bring this up. Did you see Reese Davis
say
wank
Yeah. Of course.
Do you think he knew that the letter in Lank does not stand for naysayer?
When he
You
was
think
reading it, I thought he was actually fooled, but then I heard his reaction to the reaction, and I thought, okay, I think he gets it.
he gets it, but he seemed really uncomfortable. Like, did someone give me bad information? Because it was one of Pat McAfee's better moments. Like, we never want to interrupt somebody when they're going to like setting up like a toss to like a pre-recorded thing, but it like throws everything off. But just the timing of that was hilarious, and Desmond Howard's reaction, Joey Galloway's reaction was priceless.
Yeah.
I think somebody behind the scenes told him that's what that meant as a joke, and he went with it. And now he looked like I look foolish because I'm sure he was like interviewing Jalen Milroe, and he's like, Lank, what does that mean? He was like, oh, I can't tell you that. And then someone behind the scenes told him otherwise.
Created for a great moment, though.
Oh, fantastic moment.
Yeah. Shout out to Reese for that.
Yeah. Good on him. All right, everybody. That's going to be it for tonight. Steven's got to eat his chicken and rice.
Ew. This stuff. I've been eating it like sporadically. Looks decent, huh?
Well, that looks good. What kind of rice you got there, Uncle Ben?
No, dude, I made it. It's just white rice. You just season it, and then you put it in chicken broth, and you.
I'm lazy when it comes to rice.
Oh, dude, chicken and rice, cook it in, little onion. Woo!
It's one of my go-to meals now, but I always go for the 90-second rice. Just easy.
I like that.
Yeah.
That rice ain't ripe, bro, or white. It was.
And on that note, all right, guys, we will see you sometime next week. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll talk about some playoff football coming up. Until then, Steven, say what you always say.
It's just our opinion, all the naysayers out there.